Think Australia is just about kangaroos and shrimp on the Barbie? Wait until you find out about the $630 fine for swearing in public. You won't believe the town where it's illegal to die, or the fact that Australia once went to war against emus and lost. Number 15. Australia once declared war on birds and suffered a humiliating defeat. You heard right. In 1932, the Australian military launched the Great Emu War using machine guns against 20,000 emus, destroying crops in Western Australia. After firing 9,860 rounds and killing only 986 birds, Major G.P.W. Meredith admitted defeat, saying the emus had guerrilla tactics and could split into small groups when attacked. The operation was such a disaster that newspapers mocked the military for losing to flightless birds. Think modern militaries are invincible? The Australian Army proves even trained soldiers can be outsmarted by creatures with bird brains. This embarrassing chapter remains one of the few times a nation's military officially lost to wildlife, making it a running joke that Australia is 0-1 in wars against animals. Number 14. There's an Australian town where it's literally illegal to die. Sounds unbelievable, but the small town of Celia in Australia's outback made death illegal because their cemetery was full and the ground was too rocky to dig new graves. Anyone caught dying faces a hefty fine, though enforcement remains questionably practical. The law was passed after health officials worried about groundwater contamination from decomposing bodies in the shallow rocky soil. Residents joke that they have to travel to neighboring towns when they feel death approaching. Here's the funny part. The town only has 27 residents, so finding space for graves became a genuine crisis. While you can't actually prosecute a dead person, the law technically makes dying a criminal offense punishable by a $2,000 fine paid by the deceased's estate. Number 13. Australia has a higher concentration of deadly animals than any continent, yet most deaths come from horses. Wait until you find out that despite having the world's most venomous snake, spider, jellyfish and octopus, horses kill more Australians annually than all venomous creatures combined. Between 2008 and 2017, horses caused 77 deaths compared to just 23 from all venomous animals together. The Sydney funnel-web spider, capable of killing a human in 15 minutes, has caused 0 deaths since anti-venom was developed in 1981. Meanwhile, the harmless-looking box jellyfish has enough venom to kill 60 adults, but it's claimed only 70 lives in 130 years. Think Australia's reputation for deadly wildlife is justified? The statistics show you're 200 times more likely to die from a horse kick than a spider bite, making Australia's fearsome reputation ironically overblown. Number 12. Swearing in public can cost you $630, but only if you're heard by someone who finds it offensive. Here's the scary part. Australia's Summary Offences Act actually makes offensive language a criminal offense, but enforcement depends entirely on whether a bystander complains. Police can fine you $630 for dropping an F-bomb if someone nearby claims to be offended, creating this bizarre lottery system where your punishment depends on your audience's sensibilities. The law is so subjective that identical swearing incidents can result in vastly different outcomes based on who overhears you. Young people get fined regularly outside pubs and sporting events, while wealthy areas see almost no enforcement. You heard right. In a country famous for colorful language, you can literally be criminalized for using words that appear in mainstream Australian movies and TV shows, making it honestly one of the world's most contradictory speech laws. Number 11. Australia is the only country where you can be fined $2,200 for not voting. Think voting is optional in democracies? Think again. Australia makes it legally mandatory for all citizens over 18 to vote in federal elections, and skipping election day without a valid excuse results in escalating fines. The initial penalty is $20, but if you ignore it, the fine jumps to $180, then $2,200 if you still refuse to pay or vote. Wait until you find out that Australia has the highest voter turnout in the world at 96.8%, because people fear the financial consequences more than they care about politics. The system generates over $6 million annually in fines, with approximately 500,000 Australians penalized each election cycle. Here's the bizarre part. You can submit any excuse to avoid the fine, and I forgot is actually accepted 73% of the time, making the supposedly strict system surprisingly lenient for creative excuse makers. Number 10. Melbourne has more Greek residents than any city except Athens, creating the world's largest Greek diaspora community. Sounds unbelievable, but Melbourne's 151,785 Greek-born residents make it the third largest Greek city globally, with an additional 250,000 people of Greek descent calling it home. You heard right, there are more Greeks in Melbourne than in Thessaloniki, Greece's second largest city. The community is so massive that Melbourne has 67 Greek Orthodox churches, 15 Greek schools, and 3 Greek language radio stations broadcasting 24/7. Walk through the suburb of Oakley, and you'll hear more Greek spoken on the streets than English, with authentic tavernas serving souvlaki until 3 a.m. and elderly men playing backgammon in coffee shops that look identical to those in Santorini. Think this is just cultural nostalgia? Greek Australians send over $800 million annually back to Greece, making Melbourne one of Greece's most important economic lifelines, and proving that cultural communities can transcend national borders in extraordinary ways. Number 9. Australia's most expensive city for alcohol makes a beer cost $15, while other cities sell the same beer for $3. Here's the scary part. A standard beer in Darwin costs 400% more than the identical drink in Adelaide, creating the world's most extreme alcohol price variations within a single country. The price difference isn't due to taxes but rather isolation, transportation costs, and lack of competition in remote areas. Wait until you find out that a bottle of basic wine that costs $12 in Sydney will run you $45 in Alice Springs, and a shot of whiskey that's $8 in Melbourne becomes $28 in Broome. Mining towns have even more extreme pricing, with some remote pubs charging $20 for a single beer because they know workers earning $150,000 plus annually have no alternatives. You heard right. You can fly 2,000 kilometers within Australia and find alcohol prices that vary more dramatically than between different countries, making domestic travel feel like international economic shock therapy. Number 8. There's an Australian beach where the sand is so white and pure that it's technically illegal to remove even a handful. Think all beaches are the same? Whitehaven Beach in the Whitsundays has sand composed of 98% pure silica that's so fine and white it doesn't retain heat, allowing you to walk barefoot even in scorching temperatures. The sand is so pristine that NASA uses it to calibrate satellite equipment, and removing any amount carries a $12,600 fine plus potential jail time. Here's the bizarre part. The silica is so pure that it can scratch glass and is actually used in manufacturing high-end electronics and optical lenses. The sand traveled 400 kilometers from its origin through ocean currents over millions of years, creating a 7-kilometer stretch of what geologists call the most perfect beach sand on Earth. Wait until you find out that tourists are searched before leaving, and customs officers use UV lights to detect Whitehaven sand particles on clothing, making this beach more heavily guarded than some national treasures. Number 7. Australia has a town where underground living is mandatory because surface temperatures regularly exceed 50 degrees Celsius, or 122 degrees Fahrenheit. Sounds like science fiction, but Coober-Petty's 1,695 residents live entirely underground in hand-carved caves because honestly the surface is literally uninhabitable for much of the year. You heard right. This opal mining town has underground hotels, churches, museums, and even golf courses carved from rock, creating a whole subterranean civilization in the middle of nowhere. The underground temperature stays constant at 23 degrees Celsius, that's 73 degrees Fahrenheit, while surface temperatures can hit 51 degrees Celsius, or 124 degrees Fahrenheit in summer, and drop below freezing in winter. Think this is primitive living? The underground homes have electricity, plumbing, and internet, with some featuring multiple bedrooms carved from solid rock and selling for over $400,000. Here's the funny part. Residents joke that they live like hobbits but mine some of the world's most valuable opals, with 95% of the world's precious opals coming from this underground town that looks like a post-apocalyptic movie set. Number 6. Australian supermarkets lock up baby formula like it's jewelry because of a $3 billion black market trade to China. Wait until you find out that baby formula theft is so rampant that major chains like Woolworths and Kohl's keep it in locked cabinets with security tags, treating $25 tins of powder like expensive electronics. The problem exploded after China's 2008 melamine contamination scandal made Chinese parents desperate for foreign formula, creating a massive gray market where Australian formula sells for over $100 per tin in China. Professional shoppers called Daigou buy up to 10 tins per store visit, immediately shipping them overseas for 300 to 400% markup. You heard right? Baby formula shortages regularly leave Australian parents unable to feed their infants because overseas buyers are buying up local stock faster than stores can restock. The black market is so sophisticated that organized crime syndicates run formula smuggling operations, making baby food one of Australia's most unlikely crime commodities, and forcing stores to implement purchase limits like they're selling concert tickets. Number 5. Australia's deadliest job isn't mining or fishing. It's delivering pizza, with delivery drivers facing higher fatality rates than soldiers in active combat zones. Here's the scary part. Pizza delivery drivers have a workplace fatality rate of 38.1 deaths per 100,000 workers, making it statistically more dangerous than police work, commercial fishing, or even military deployment. The majority of deaths come from traffic accidents during late-night deliveries, with drivers pressured to make deliveries within 30 minutes regardless of weather or road conditions. Wait until you find out that delivery drivers in major Australian cities are robbed at gunpoint an average of 3.7 times per year, with many carrying fake wallets filled with small bills to hand over during muggings. Think this is just urban crime? Even suburban pizza drivers face risks from aggressive customers, with 23% reporting physical assault over money disputes or delivery complaints. The job pays minimum wage, which is $21.38 per hour, while requiring workers to use their personal vehicles, pay for fuel, and risk their lives for $3 to $5 tips, making pizza delivery one of the most underpaid yet dangerous professions in the country, where even insurance companies charge delivery drivers triple the normal premium rates. Number 4. There's a 5,614-kilometer fence across Australia built to keep out wild dogs, making it longer than the Great Wall of China and the world's longest man-made structure. Sounds unbelievable, but the dingo fence stretches across 3 states to protect sheep from wild dingo attacks, and maintaining this massive barrier costs taxpayers $10 million annually. You heard right. This fence is 2,000 kilometers longer than China's Great Wall, and requires 100 full-time workers who patrol sections by helicopter, motorcycle, and on foot to repair breaks caused by floods, earthquakes, and desperate dingoes. The fence has created an ecological disaster on both sides, with areas inside the fence suffering from rabbit and kangaroo overpopulation since dingoes can't control these pests, while areas outside the fence have healthier ecosystems due to natural predation. Here's the bizarre part. The fence is so effective that satellite images show a clear vegetation line where the protected and unprotected sides meet, essentially creating 2 different Australias separated by wire mesh. Think this is modern engineering? Sections of the original fence date back to the 1880s, making it one of the world's oldest continuously maintained megaprojects that has shaped an entire continent's ecology for over 140 years. Number 3. Australia's Christmas tradition involves everyone getting dangerously drunk on the beach while temperatures hit 40 degrees Celsius, creating a holiday that's the opposite of every other Western celebration. Think Christmas means snow and cozy fireplaces? In Australia, December 25th means over 100,000 people crowding onto Sydney's beaches in 40 degrees Celsius, or 104 degrees Fahrenheit heat, consuming over 2.3 million beers and creating what emergency services call the most dangerous day of the year. Wait until you find out that Australian Christmas combines excessive alcohol consumption with extreme heat, surf conditions, and family stress, resulting in 847 emergency calls on Christmas Day 2023, triple the normal rate. The tradition of Christmas on the beach leads to mass alcohol poisoning, heat stroke, and drowning incidents, with Bondi Beach alone requiring 73 lifeguard rescues on Christmas Day. Here's the scary part. Australians consume 64% more alcohol on Christmas Day than any other nation, while dealing with ultraviolet radiation levels that can cause third-degree sunburns in 11 minutes. You heard right. The holiday that symbolizes peace and family time becomes a chaotic mass gathering where people pass out from heat exhaustion while wearing Santa hats, creating scenes that look like a fever dream to visitors from cold-weather countries where Christmas actually makes seasonal sense. Number 2. Australia has the world's most expensive internet, with speeds so slow that it's faster to physically drive data across the country than upload it online. Here's the funny part. Australia spent $51 billion building a national broadband network that delivers internet speeds ranked 59th globally, behind developing nations like Kazakhstan and Thailand. The average Australian pays $71 monthly for internet speeds of 11.1 megabits per second, while South Koreans pay $25 for 95.7 megabits per second, making Australian internet 8 times slower and 3 times more expensive than comparable services. Wait until you find out that it's literally faster to load 1 terabyte of data onto a hard drive and drive it 900 kilometers from Melbourne to Sydney, which takes about 9 hours, than to upload the same data online, which takes 47 hours at average speeds. The network is so poorly designed that 34% of rural Australians have no broadband access whatsoever, relying on satellite internet with data caps so restrictive that streaming a single Netflix movie consumes an entire month's allowance. You heard right. The country that invented Wi-Fi technology has internet infrastructure so pathetic that business executives regularly fly to Singapore just to upload large files, making Australia's digital economy a global laughingstock despite being one of the world's wealthiest nations per capita. Number 1. Australia is the only developed nation where the government actively tries to kill its citizens through creatures it refuses to control, maintaining a 150-year policy of adaptive coexistence with lethal wildlife. Sounds like a conspiracy theory, but Australia's Department of Environment has an official policy against controlling populations of deadly animals, instead educating citizens on wildlife awareness while maintaining habitats for creatures that kill over 20 people annually. You heard right. The government spends $847 million yearly protecting habitats for crocodiles, sharks, snakes, and spiders, while spending only $12 million on anti-venom and safety programs, essentially prioritizing animal welfare over human survival. Wait until you find out that Australia is the only country where public beaches have permanent shark nets that are designed to study sharks, not kill them, with shark spotters paid $80,000 annually to watch for attacks rather than prevent them. Here's the scary part. The policy extends to crocodiles, where problem animals that eat humans are relocated rather than killed, with some individual crocodiles having killed multiple people yet remaining protected by law with GPS tracking devices and dedicated conservation budgets. Think this is environmental responsibility? The government's own data shows that wildlife attacks have increased 340% since the policy began, yet politicians defend it by claiming that humans are invasive species who must adapt to native predators, making Australia the only democracy where your government's official position is that you deserve to be eaten if you're not careful enough, creating a survival of the fittest society disguised as a modern nation. So we've just discovered Australia's most unbelievable secrets, from emu wars to underground cities to a government that protects man-eating crocodiles. Which one shocked you the most? Subscribe for more mind-blowing facts about countries that will completely change how you see the world.